My sister wrecked my childhood memories by secretly tossing out my favorite stuffed animal, a bear I'd had since I was 2. But I didn't break down. I started gathering proof to show my family what she did. Growing up, I was always in my sister's shadow. Seriously, it felt like I was raised in a spotlight aimed only at her. You know how they say the firstborn is the golden child? Yeah, my sister was that for my parents. A straight-A student, captain of the cheerleading squad, and loved by everyone. Meanwhile, I was the one who just existed. It didn't matter how hard I tried. I'd achieve something cool, and it was like it disappeared into thin air. I could win the science fair, and my mom would still ask about my sister's dance recital. So that favoritism really got to me. I guess I just didn't fit the mold. When my sister started throwing out my things, I thought it was just sisterly teasing. But when I realized how serious she got, and how she wouldn't even blink while I cried, I started collecting scattered clues about her. I even found old texts where she bragged about how easy it was to manipulate our parents. It made me sick. And one day, I came home and noticed my favorite bear was missing. You know, the one with a ripped ear and a tail that had seen better days? I left it on the bed when I went out, and it was just gone. Turns out, she told Mom it was just clutter and that it had to go. I felt like my heart was stomped on. Was I supposed to just let that slide? No way. I was going to find a way to get back at her, even if it meant uncovering all her lies one by one. What really hit hard was when I discovered she'd been sowing discord about my art project to make sure I didn't end up in the spotlight with a scholarship. Like, what? It was pure sabotage. I couldn't believe it. And there I was, thinking she was just a spoiled brat. Now, my plan was to expose her lies and the reality that my childhood wasn't just hers. Maybe then it would finally sink in that her perfect life came at my expense. I had been keeping tabs on my sister without her knowing, collecting what I could about her manipulative ways. Then it hit me. She left her laptop open, logged in, just waiting for me to peek in. I never thought snooping on her would uncover more than just her latest beauty tutorial. When I opened it, there was a folder named Family Plans, filled with documents that had dates and weird notes about upcoming events. But none of the events mentioned me. I couldn't shake this sick feeling. What were they planning without me? Immediately, I felt this knot in my stomach. It was just some flimsy validation, but really it was proof there was a separate family dynamic going on, one I wasn't included in. Thinking outside the box, I decided to rope in my cousin, someone I was sure would see through my sister's facade. We met at the cafe, just the two of us, and I laid it all out. The stuffed bear, the lies, everything. At first, he was all in, even helping me draft a plan to confront her. But, like I should have known, it didn't take long for him to start playing mediator, some back and forth about being a family and giving her the benefit of the doubt. I saw it coming. The moment any hardship arose, he'd flop right back to being a peacemaker. He called my sister to ask about the bear, and she had this perfect little excuse ready. I was fuming. It made me realize how deep the enabling went. This was really going to be harder than I thought. Then it happened. One late night, I was scrolling through social media and saw a post that made my heart race. The local art gallery was showcasing student art pieces next week, and they'd only selected a handful of students. I thought about how I had submitted that project she'd tried to sabotage. I couldn't shake the feeling that my sister had some sort of hold on that gallery. Sure enough, I discovered that the gallery's owner was a close friend of my mother. My mind raced. Did my mom get to them to keep me from succeeding? Were they really this manipulative? I felt this rush of anger. It made the stakes all the more intense. I knew I had to dig deeper and figure out how many other opportunities I'd been robbed of. This was bigger than what I'd thought. I was ready to unravel everything right there in my own home. I couldn't let the gallery incident slide. I needed to make sure my sister learned a lesson. So I decided to confront our mother about it. Just casually bring it up over dinner, right? That plan completely backfired. I mentioned the art show and suggested maybe I should have gotten a shot at being featured, considering my talent. Mom had this glazed look in her eyes, like she was tuning out the moment I mentioned my art. I swear she downplayed my words, insisting what mattered was supporting my sister's incredible journey. I was furious. Not only had I risked my standing in the family, but I could see it was only a matter of time before they all turned on me. I could feel that pushback already. I started spiraling, feeling outnumbered and angry. But something unexpected happened next. I overheard a conversation between my sister and her best friend during one of her self-congratulatory rants. They were mocking me, saying how easy it was to manipulate Mom and Dad into thinking I was the problem. That was a wake-up call. This wasn't just sibling rivalry, it was a systematic effort to keep me out of the light. The shocking part? Her friend mentioned a secret art show that my sister was planning to showcase her work, while my project was ignored entirely. It clicked. Mom must have had a hand in this. I felt it was all connected somehow. I just needed to put the pieces together. With all this new information, I decided it was time to lay the cards on the table. I wanted to confront my sister, and that night I caught her during dinner. I brought up the gallery again and went straight for the jugular, asking if she really thought she could keep me sidelined forever. I laid out my suspicions about her dealings with the gallery owner. She turned white and started stammering, a reaction that sent chills down my spine. That moment of vulnerability, though, almost steeled me. I needed to strike while she was rattled. In that charged atmosphere, I told her everything I found out and how I was onto her game. Just as I thought I was gaining the upper hand, she ripped into me, saying I was still acting like the spoiled brat nobody wanted at the family table. I knew right then it was make or break time. I had to confront the whole family about everything going on. It was the only way to get justice for myself. But as soon as I mentioned that, she shot back with a threat that made my heart drop. She had just enough dirt on me to bury me if I pushed too hard. That challenge left me stunned and feeling completely trapped. I was done playing by their rules. I gathered every piece of evidence I had, made a PowerPoint, and called a family meeting. Yeah, I went full-on nerd mode, but I wanted them to see everything laid out so they couldn't wriggle away from it. First, I set the stage by pointing out every small act of sabotage my sister had executed. Like when she convinced Mom that my science fair project didn't matter as much as her dance recital because my project wasn't as pretty. I even showed them the social media posts where my sister gloated about how she manipulated Mom and Dad into believing I didn't belong in art school at all. My heart was racing. This was my moment. As expected, my mother flipped. She couldn't handle the truth. I even heard her mumble something about me being ungrateful as tears rolled down my face. But then my sister went berserk. She started screaming that I was fabricating everything and how nobody would believe me. I stood my ground, though. I had proof, and I laid it all out, and suddenly the atmosphere shifted. My dad, who'd been quiet this whole time, suddenly seemed to wake up. I saw a flicker of realization cross his face as he pieced together how complicit he'd been in letting my sister shine while I got shoved off to the side. Then it hit me. My sister had been behind the art show exclusion and had orchestrated everything to her advantage. I finished with the biggest revelation: the gallery owner's friendship with my mom. People were stunned. My mom tried to downplay it, saying she had no idea my sister had acted this way, but her voice quaked just enough to show I was hitting the target. I saw the doubt growing in everyone's eyes. The golden child was finally being called out for her manipulation, and it felt like a massive weight lifted off my shoulders. But it took a dark turn when my sister fired back. She revealed her own card. She had found a few years' worth of letters I had written, details about how much I felt overshadowed and unloved by our family. It was my private journal entries about how my feelings mattered so little to any of them. The room fell dead silent. That betrayal was like fire burning through everything. A few family members started looking at me differently, and I realized I had opened up a floodgate of emotions I thought I'd buried. I had intended to expose a family dynamic, but instead I had exposed my own vulnerability, and I had no idea how they would react to that new piece. In that charged moment, everything that had been festering under the surface broke wide open. The lies, the jealousy, the incredible pressure my sister had put me under. And as I stood there frozen, a mix of triumph and despair swirling in a storm, I knew it was all coming to a head. I just had to see this through, ready for whatever fallout would come next. After the big showdown, the atmosphere around the dinner table was just ice cold. My mom was beside herself, refusing to even look at either of us, like we were radioactive or something. My sister, well, she went from furious to completely silent, as if she was processing everything that just went down. I could feel the tension simmering beneath the surface. A weird mixture of resentment and confusion swirled in the room. My dad finally spoke up, trying to be the peacemaker, but he only ended up making it worse. He kept saying, "We're family, like that's supposed to fix all the chaos." Yeah, me standing there, facing my sister's betrayal, my mother's denial, all held up by a father who just couldn't handle the truth. I could feel them all slowly shifting away from me. As the days went by, the silence became deafening. I noticed my mom making excuses to avoid being around me. Suddenly, my art supplies disappeared from common spaces, tucked away as if I might infect them with my doubt. And I found out my sister was spreading rumors that I was just looking for attention or trying to ruin her life. Like, seriously? I felt more like a ghost in my own home than ever. Once, I ran into my cousin at a family gathering, and even he gave me this awkward look. It made me wonder how many people were genuinely on my side or just siding with my sister to survive our dysfunctional family. The unraveling threads were so obvious now, and I was left with nothing but this heavy feeling of loneliness. But I can't lie, it wasn't all bad. My art actually took off after that. Funny how being pushed into the corner can light a fire in you, right? I started focusing on my work more than ever. There was this art competition coming up, and I decided to showcase my latest pieces to channel everything that had happened. The pain, the betrayal, it all became part of my work. I ended up gaining so much from that experience, but I knew deep down that nothing could really heal the familial fractures. But it still felt unfinished, you know? I had discovered a ton of lies, but still had no idea how my mother was connected to my sister's manipulations, and what else was hidden beneath the surface. It was like this web of deceit spiraled out further, and I couldn't help but feel there was still more to uncover. As I sat there sketching at my desk late one night, these questions kept gnawing at me. What lengths would my mom go to protect her image? What more was my sister keeping from me? I was not done yet, and there were still pieces of this puzzle left to expose, even if it meant risking everything all over again.